Here's my hypothesis again. I don't know what it means. I'm just strictly observation for what I've seen over the years. The way the child views the father on Father's Day, and really in most of life, especially up until who knows when, well into adulthood, possibly, the child views the dad not through their own eyes, but through the eyes, or shall we say, the lenses that they were given by the mother. What up, though, everybody? Welcome to the Black Prospector Show. I am joined today by my son, Kory Devon, of a Dad Mentality podcast. And so we are giving you a special Father's Day show as he has his own podcast, and obviously you're watching mine. And so we wanted to do a special Father's Day show for everyone out here and say Happy Father's Day. And we are going to get into some of the issues involving Father's Day, certainly in the early 2020s that we are now living in, because it's not exactly the same as it probably used to be, certainly for, in my case, my father and his grandfather's generation. But before we begin, let me give a little bit of housekeeping, because as you all know, I'm trying to talk to men. I've been saying over 44, but I'm going to have to bump that up now that I'm getting old. Men over 50 trying to live a life that's fit and free with some vitality. And I got this young man up in the house today. And brother, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell a little bit about your show, and then let's get into it.
I'm Kory. My show, a Dad Mentality podcast. You can find it on Spotify or Anchor right now until I get it on other platforms. My show is pretty much based just for the younger generation, new dads, dads that really don't have maybe a father figure in their life, so really don't have anyone to talk to them about certain things. And just a show for people to really vent and, just chop it up. It hasn't gone completely the way I wanted to yet, but it's getting there. I've got 2 shows out already, and I plan on having some more coming up pretty soon. So stay tuned for that.
Well, we got your third today. So we're definitely going to put it up.
Definitely.
And I think that's going to be the best part about this conversation. Both of us collaborating, getting this show out. Now, for my regular viewers, they know I have every Black man has a story. So I told my man he's not at that point yet, although he does have some stories. He's not quite there yet to really be able to share his war wounds, because they still healing up. They still healing up for the youngster. But with him having his own fatherhood stories, his own fatherhood podcast, I had to get him on here. And so really what we have now, we really have a convergence. His youthful knowledge of being a young father, my old geezer knowledge of being an old father, and both of us in the realm and the space of being a quote unquote single father. And so it's ideal. We hitting dads of all areas, all ages, all age groups, age ranges today. So Kory, let's get into this, man. I mean, and really, just so for the audience knows, this kind of comes out of a conversation we had the other day. We ended up chopping it up and talked for a couple of hours about fatherhood, and with Father's Day coming around the corner, just our history, how we looked at it, etc. And so that's when it was like, all right, we got to do a show on this, because I think a lot of the points that we made, it was interesting for me to hear where you are now at and how you view Father's Day. Because I guess traditionally I would have thought, okay, maybe it's just my thing, which I had to learn over the years. It wasn't even just my thing. And I get into that in a second of how other dads felt. So let's start. I'll just start asking you off the rip. Father's Day, it's here. It's going to be a special one for you. If you want to tell how many kids you have, and just, we'll say from the 30,000 foot view, how do you now view Father's Day as opposed to the way you might have viewed it maybe 10 years ago?
Well, for one, I am a father of 5. I have taken the role of being a father to 2 beautiful young ladies. Genevieve and Isabel. And then I have 3 biological kids of my own, Jaden and Madison and Mackenzie, the 3-year-old Sour Patch twins. Um, so Father's Day is very important to me now. It wasn't before, not as important, just because, just like everywhere else, they promote Mother's Day and they never talk about Father's Day. So for a long time, for me growing up, it was just Mother's Day, Mother's Day, Mother's Day. So when Father's Day came around, the importance just, it was there. Obviously, got you gifts, did things, said Happy Father's Day, but it really wasn't, for Mother's Day, it was like, we got to do this big extravagant stuff. And so looking back at it now, it's like, I wish I would have done things differently, because me being a dad now, it's like, man, this is important. And it's important that people talk about it. It's important that people acknowledge it, because we do make a lot of sacrifices. We do a lot of things that people don't know about. We do deal with a lot of things that people don't know about mentally. So I feel like this day is just really, really should be focused on making sure that we're taken care of mentally. You know, whether it's we want to go out and we want to do our own thing, or we want to be at home with our family and our kids, we should be able to make that choice of what we want to do on this day. And there should be no issues about it. So I really think that Father's Day is very important. Gifts are cool, but I'm more of a show me person. So buying me a gift isn't really, thank you and I appreciate it, but I would much rather just somebody really treat me the way I want to be treated on this day.
Oh man, okay. Okay. I'm about to take a left turn, but I'm trying not to go there so soon. You gave me another idea for something else, but I'm gonna come back to that in a moment. I'll say on my end, for whatever reason, and probably because obviously, you came into my life and when I was 19. So this day, I would say it was always a difference in how I viewed it being a dad versus how I viewed Mother's Day being treated. Basically it was just insignificant. It's like, oh, okay, so it's Father's Day, big deal. In my house growing up, Father's Day, I guess I'll have to say Father's Day was still, at least to me, and I guess now I need to go back and ask my dad, how significant did he feel it was? Because on one end, I knew Mother's Day was something, whether my dad would give my mother some flowers, things like that. But I'm gonna be honest, off the top of my head, I don't recall any gifts that my father might have received from my mother. And I also say I don't remember ever really buying my dad anything for Father's Day either. That probably came later on in life once I became a dad. And so I'll put it this way. Even growing up, I knew you don't miss Mother's Day. Mother's Day is important. Father's Day, because my birthday falls around that same time, it was still, oh, well, it's my birthday. And oh, by the way, oh, yeah, it's Father's Day too. Happy Father's Day, Dad, kind of was the thing. But I don't even remember in the 70s, 80s, 90s that it was a big cultural thing, anything really about fatherhood. And it's only been, I'll say, during this internet era. So we'll say during this millennial generation, where now I think online men are beginning to comment. I think rapper Jim Jones just even made a comment recently about, men, how they get treated on Father's Day. So whether we're talking about celebrities or whether we're probably talking about some guy that may even be homeless right now, there still seems to be this gap of men wanting some recognition on this day. And my guess is only because we now feel that it's okay to say something. Because I think you'd probably be viewed as a puss if you would have said something about it in the past, because it's like, well, why don't you just man up? What's the big deal?
Right.
You're acting like a woman, even asking for some kind of recognition for anything. But yet at the same time, everybody wants recognition. I don't care whether you are an athlete, you want recognition, because what if Steph Curry just won another NBA championship? What if everybody would have just walked on off the floor and been like, and nobody would have said something. Yeah, he would have got back in there expecting the champagne to be flowing, and they're just like, yeah, we're not doing that this year. We're not. We just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a good player. We appreciate it. Here's the ring. Or what if it's in the military? I mean, in the military, they get recognized. At their retirement, they get recognized. So everyone gets recognized. We certainly know in school you go through a graduation. But it seems like when it comes to this holiday, I certainly think that men have been shamed for even now speaking out, or maybe wanting to speak out, looking for recognition in the past. And I'll just end mine by saying I remember one of the first messages I gave in a church. This probably is about 20 years ago. And even then, I noticed the difference in Mother's Day. Everybody had to make sure they came to church. And then number two, everyone, the pastor started saying, mom is great. The home would not function without mom. Mom is everything. And first of all, most of what they said is unbiblical. But, again, the church has been flipped and turned anyway. And then the other part I would always notice on Father's Day, and I can say this, I know this because I've been in church all my life. On Father's Day, it's why don't men step up? Why don't men become better men? Why don't they lead their families? If you look at all the societal ills that we have, it's because men aren't being men of God. And it's like, of all the 365 days out of a year, you think this is one that you could have spoken even kindly to the men in your congregation. And most male pastors didn't even take the opportunity to do that. They took the opportunity to give them a tongue lashing, to give them a lecture on how they could be better. Into which I say, again, that's why you got the book, Why Men Hate Going to Church, why men are taking mass exodus out of all religions actually right now, but particularly evangelical churches. And why I have a video that I may link up here at the top. We could do this video on why I said Kevin Samuels and other men out there talking about relationship issues are reaching people more than Tony Evans and many of the other evangelical pastors out there, because they are going after saying things that men have been wanting to say for quite some time. How has it been with guys your age and just your general age group? How do they feel really about how they are recognized as fathers?
Father's Day is pretty much recognized with my age group. You're right. As far as the internet is concerned, once people really started having a voice, fathers started having a voice. And now with, men's mental health being a big thing as well, I think that, that's kind of played a role in it. I remember working at the casino and they were having a big, huge Mother's Day brunch, or basically day at the restaurant. And it was like a big, huge event. There were so many people. It was, it was really crowded. And then when Father's Day came around, there was nothing. And it really bothered me. And it was, I want to say this was back, 2010, 2011. So that was like, when the internet, that was 10 years ago. So think back then, people didn't have a voice then like they do now. So it's gotten better. But, I still feel like Father's Day still doesn't get the recognition that Mother's Day does. And it's going to continue to grow with how my generation is handling it, and how the generations that are going to come after us. I feel like eventually Father's Day and Mother's Day they'll have their equal. They'll be equal at some point. For once, it's the men actually asking to be just as equal as the women. For once, we want to feel the same exact way they do, because we all deserve it. As parents, we all deserve it.
So you think so? You think eventually it'll be equal?
Definitely. I feel like men have more of a voice now than they ever have, as far as feelings, and like you said, with Kevin Samuels and others giving us more of a voice and helping us. I feel like people are more comfortable now speaking about it and saying, this needs to change. I can look at Father's Day on social media and people talking about how special Father's Day is, and I can see people actually recognizing fathers. It's not just here's a card, and people are actually doing things. And I can see a change, especially like you said, with social media and with the internet, with how people are able to talk about things. It's just, yes, it's going to get better.
All right, here's what I don't know if I can show this, and let's see if it shows up, because I got the old school iPhone 8. Let's see if it shows up. You see that there? Can you get the focus there? Focus for me, camera. Focus. Let me switch cameras and maybe that'll help. But this is I'm a little more pessimistic than you
Black
are.
Women. Okay.
There we go. This is what's going to be out there. Dr. Tia Johnson put that out there. So
Okay.
that, I think I'm a little bit more pessimistic on the idea. I think that on one end, yes, I think a lot more men are going to be complaining, and they're going to be talking about their lack of recognition. But I also think I think the shaming is going to work. Number one, because I think so many of homes, whether black, so-called black, so-called white, so-called Hispanic, so-called Asian, whatever race, so-called race we want to say people are, I think that since so many of the homes are being raised or headed by women, I think the men that would start speaking out, saying something, I think they're going to be shamed. They're going to be talked about. And I think they're going to do like they always do. And yep, I think they're going to run. I think it's going to be still the minority of men are going to have to be the squeaky wheels that get the grease. And they're going to say, regardless, I'm going to still look at it as I want to be treated fairly or equally. Now, because I do think there's some hope, and y'all know I'm always going to talk about my man, Dr. Tia Johnson. Dr. Johnson points out that, he saw even during the death of Kevin Samuels kind of a groundswell of black male energy, especially that was out here where guys are like, you know what, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm checking out a relationship game, or, just on, that really a lot of women just don't want to listen. Or number two, it's just, I'm tired of just not being recognized for the labor that I'm putting in. And so, now you got this thing, the white guys had MGTOW, men going their own way. Now the black guys got save yourself, black man. And so I think a lot of black men are saying it's time for me to save myself. And so I think it'd be a minority, but I think culturally, I think we're going to see what I just shown here on MSNBC. I think they are still going to flip it. And if anything, I'll make this prediction. I'm going to put on my forecasting hat on, my tinfoil kufi, and I say that in the future, it's going to be single mothers are going to be recognized more on Father's Day than all fathers.
We've already killed that. We already killed that noise. That's one of the first rules of Father's Day. Single mothers do not get Father's Day. That's one thing that I see on Facebook all the time.
Yep.
On Father's Day, single mothers, this is not your day. Your day was in May. Mother's Day. But why do we rely on women to recognize us on Father's Day? Why can't fathers recognize other fathers on Father's Day?
Wow.
I don't really see a point in, women recognizing us and giving us what we want. Why don't we give it to each other? I'm invited to Cars and Coffee tomorrow with other men. I was invited by another guy, and he said, come, it's a Father's Day thing. So why not celebrate it, amongst each other? Why not celebrate each other? Why not, if we want to give gifts, why not give a fellow father a gift? Or, why not take a fellow father out to lunch or out to dinner? It doesn't always have to be the women doing it for us, because then it kind of gives them that that feeling of empowerment. Like, they control our day. They're going to cook us a dinner and they're going to plan a day for us. And then we're not really doing what we want to do. Why not, why not change it, change the whole dynamic of Father's Day?
Y'all hear this young man drop that knowledge on here? Bravo, young fella. Bravo. That was good stuff, man. That was good stuff. Y'all heard it here first on the dad mentality right there. I like that.
You got to change it. I mean, that's how we have to start with each other. We have to change it. Man, we have to take the stand and do something. And we can't rely on the women to change it for us. If we want the change, we got to do something about it as men. I mean, we're taking the lead. We're in charge here. We're men. So it's time that we man up, stop blaming women for why we're not getting what we want on Father's Day. Give it to each other.
All right, I'll put it this way. I think you're 100% correct. It's sad, but I think that in order for us to get to what you were talking about in terms of recognition, I think you're right. I think we would almost have to do a Christmas move. Christmas isn't Christmas just because you get gifts from your family.
Mhm.
Christmas is also Christmas, or especially when you're younger, you look forward to it because you're getting gifts from people at work. You get gifts from your relatives. Anybody who you're probably going to see on that day or around that time of year is
Mhm.
getting you a gift, not just your immediate family.
Mhm.
What you're saying is pretty sad because really what you're saying is the only way that the day will be recognized is basically if it's recognized by those who are they are they have to resort to recognizing each other, then the day is set for other people to recognize you, the ones that benefited from your sacrifice. Because if I buy you a gift on Father's Day,
Mhm.
you didn't make your sacrifices for me, though. You made them for your 5 kids and for the moms, not for me. But yet the only way the day could really be significant is perhaps if I honor you. I think you have a solution. It's just sad we got to resort to that
Yeah, and
solution.
it is. It definitely is. But I mean, we got to do what we got to do because I'm with the phrase "we're all we got." We are all we
Yeah.
have. We are all we got. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But it's like we got to have each other's backs. You know, as black men, as white men, it doesn't matter. We have to be with each other. We have to stand with each other. And I feel like if that happens, then maybe the dynamic of, fathers being afraid to be a father or fathers not knowing, you know, if they see other fathers standing together, then maybe they'll be like, okay, maybe this isn't that bad. Maybe people won't be as scared to be a father. So then they'll be more more inclined to want to reach out to someone else and be like, yo, I need help. A lot of dads, a lot of men are afraid to reach out. So that's why they tuck their tail and run and don't want to be a dad. So maybe this opens up doors to different things.
I'm going to go back to the interview that actually my audience has been introduced already to Jeff. And you can find Jeff's interview. I've interviewed him on Every Black Man Has a Story. And Jeff tells us his story. And one of the things that Jeff would always say is, especially after his military experience, no good deed goes unpunished. And that's not a brand new phrase, but the fact that there are so many areas in life that phrase is fitting, I think when we start talking about fatherhood, it's definitely fitting. No good deed goes unpunished. So when you say we are all we got, that's pretty sad because many times it's like we're being punished for the good deeds. And here's what I mean by that. I think we're left with really probably 3 types of people that are going to celebrate Father's Day. Number one, you're going to have the dad that I'll say the kids are going to celebrate a dad that's not there. And what I mean by the celebration, if that dad is not there, there's going to be probably some depression. There's going to be some anxiety. There's going to be, some mom is going to quote unquote step up and step in and say, well, your dad left and, he got out of here. And so there's going to be like, oh, it's Father's Day. And, my father didn't even stay around to raise me and et cetera. Then you're going to have, but here's the thing, they miss that dad. And in their mind, if that dad was there, I would honor him on this day.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to have those dads that, I'm going to assume that probably do get some kind of recognition, some kind of honor on that day. And then you're going to have what I think makes up probably the majority of the fathers out there. It's going to be it's just another day. Happy Father's Day. Here's your tie. Happy Father's Day. Here's your tool. And like I always say, you better not walk home with you better not come home with a microwave, or back in the day, an iron. Or my father definitely knew he better not come up with something like that for my mother on Mother's Day, or vacuum. Here's a new vacuum cleaner, honey. Better yet, why don't we do like the commercial? Here's a Peloton, baby. So they'd be like, "What are you calling me back?"
I've seen a woman get mad over receiving pajamas for
There you
it was
go.
either a birthday or Mother's Day or something. I'm like, but you would give us socks and underwear for ours, and that would be
Exactly.
completely acceptable.
Exactly. So it's like 2 out of 3. I think it speaks to what you're saying. You almost get more fanfare. Again, maybe it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You would almost get more fanfare if you didn't even stay around, if you weren't around. If you that dad that all of a sudden walk into your kid's life when they're 15 years old and they already a troubled teenager, And I'm gonna try not to get this whole video taken down, because I want to use so much material from Boys in the Hood. But you know, as y'all know, Furious Styles is my archetype dad. And so, you know, when I think about all the scenes in that movie, it's like I think there are so many good examples of how, what recognition did Furious get for taking in Trey when he was growing up? What recognition you had that scene between Doughboy, and actually I'm gonna play the audio in a moment, between Doughboy and Ricky, where you end up seeing one dad's kid get treated better than the other dad's kid. Why? Because mom still wanted to be with that dad. So that dad is viewed a little differently. I'll go into my theory on that in a second, but I'll throw it back over to you. What say you?
That goes back to what I had just posted on Facebook a few days ago, where what did it say? It said something about a dad's love is more important when he's not around. And that just is because I've from my experience, from what I've seen, I feel like fathers it's like the love when he's around, it's important, it's cool, you know, hey, dad's here, you know, great. But when he's not around, it's almost like, you know, he needs to be here. You know, it's important that dad's here. You know, we need him. You know, we need him, we need him, we need him. But then when he's here, it's just dad. You know, it doesn't get what the moms get. So it's sad. It's a harsh reality to live in, especially, you know, I deal with it myself, you know, with having a 10-year-old. You know, she wants to be with mom. She wants to do things with mom and grandma. So, you know, I don't get the recognition that I get, you know, and it's a tough pill to swallow. But, you know, I understand, you know, this is what comes with the territory. So you just take it on the chin. You know, it's not met with any ill will. It's just, that's just society, and that's just how we live, unfortunately.
Well, let me ask you this question and answer whatever you choose and say whatever you choose. But I think there's a very, very, very important element into what you just said. The question I have, and we can even delete this part if you don't want to answer it, but are you the biological father of that 10-year-old that you're speaking about?
No.
So it's not like you have a responsibility, you know, put it like this: who could shame you if you were to be like, well, that's not my biological child, so I'm out. So I mean, I
would
think
be ashamed. The men would understand. The men would understand. The women wouldn't understand. And that's unfortunate. I mean, she knows about her father. She doesn't ask about him too much. She still recognizes me as her dad. The same goes with my 9-year-old. She knows about her father. She's met him, she's hung out with him, but he's not around. He doesn't really make too much of an effort. So I guess because she lives with me and she's with me more, she really does recognize me. That's one thing that I'm actually happy about, is she's actually not here tonight. She's, you know, spending the night at a friend's house, but she said she wanted to come back tomorrow for Father's Day, to spend it with me. And then she wants to go back. So, and she wanted to make sure that she went and got a present. So it was a good feeling. So I think there's the dynamic of just, well, the reason why I wasn't recognized by one as much as the other is just the fact that one lives with me and one doesn't. One's with her mother more, one's with me more. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but, you know, I have two different worlds. One knows her dad, one doesn't. One, I guess neither one of them really have too much interest in talking to their biological fathers, which is, you know, good for me because I just gained two great kids. So I'm not too really worried about it.
But the reason why I asked that, because I think it's still important. I think someone will gloss over what you said. It was like, okay, you know, hey, she's not gonna be here, 10 years old, blah blah. It's kind of like, oh well, you know, big kids, you know, kids do what they do. But the fact that it may, I use the term you didn't use, but I use the term it may hurt more, only because it's like, this is not still there's no obligation there. You're doing it because you are making that extra effort. You're putting in that extra effort that there's no requirement for you to do it.
No.
There's no guilt that you will look in the mirror and be like, but that's my blood. That's not, it's all on your volition. And it's almost like I would say it this way. I consider my friends to be closer to me than my cousins or than my family. You know why? Because the friends that I've had since third grade, the friends that I've had since seventh grade, the friends that I've had since I graduated high school 30 plus years ago, every single one of those friends, they are in my life because they want to be, not because we see each other at funerals, weddings, and be like, hey, cuz, I hadn't seen you. They're in there because they want to be, and I want to be in their life. They want to be in mine. That makes it extra important. So I think that when you have a child that is not biologically yours, and whether it's the parent moving towards the child or the child moving toward the parent, I might argue and say it might be extra special because it's volitional. Y'all doing it because you want to do it, not because you feel like I'm obligated to do it. And I'm with you. I've seen those dads. I've counseled those dads where they come in. It's like, I don't want to do it, but I got to do it. And he is my kid, you know?
Right. I mean, Isabel, the 9-year-old, it's funny to see how I came into her life when she was, I want to say she was like 2. So it's been about 7 years. Not knowing her dad too much, and then, finally meeting him, getting to know him. And then, being around me, seeing how I am, really gravitating towards me and knowing that I'm the good role model. I'm the one that, she really wants to be around. I'm the one that she wants to, gravitate to. It makes me feel good, because one reason why I chose to be in Genevieve's life before any of my kids were even born was when I met her, I just felt like that's what I needed to do, for whatever reason. And I was young. Thinking back at it, I was 23? So I was still young in my life, making decisions like that. It was incredible. And to look back at it now, it's like, even though I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with her, and her being 10 years old, growing up, and still trying to figure out things as a young lady, and trying to figure out things, wanting to meet her dad. I actually did just meet his mother, which is kind of weird. I met him at the graduation, so that was a little interesting. He wasn't there, obviously, but to meet his mother for the first time was a little weird. But
hold on. So he wasn't there.
No.
His mom was there.
Yeah.
And you were there. Carry on.
She came out of nowhere. It was a little surprising, but it wasn't, I didn't make it awkward. I didn't ask any questions. The day was about her. So like I said, making a decision to be in her life was a decision that I wanted to make, and that I felt like I needed to make. And she needed someone that was going to lead her in the right path. Man, as a man, having her mother is fine and cool, and she's a great mother, but I just felt like in my heart at 23 years old, Genevieve was and needed to be in my life. So at some point, it was just, hey, it's Kory. And then next thing you know, it was daddy. And I didn't even care. It was like, yeah, call me dad. Hey, I welcome it. Yeah, I'm daddy. Yep, I'm daddy. And then it was hanging on my shoulders, and it was great. So I love it. And like I said, Isabel, and I could go on and on and on about these two. But Isabel is a great child. She's smart, and she has the attitude like no other. But coming into her life and knowing that how her dad is, I'm like, this isn't somebody that she needs to be around. This isn't somebody that she needs to look up to. And being with her mother, I'm like, you know what? I can do this. I'm already doing this with one child. I can do it with one more, and I can really I can change lives. And that's what I feel like I'm doing, is I'm changing 2 lives, because I could have easily said, peace, this isn't my responsibility. But I felt like I needed to be that person to change their life. So it's a great decision to make. I know I just rambled off and started going
No,
on about them, but I could do that all day long as Jaden is walking down the stairs, my son.
no, because I think it's relevant. I just did some quick math there. So, whatever gift you will receive tomorrow, really, there should be no greater gift than from your daughter's mothers. Because when I did the math, if I take the last blanket figure, I think that most people throw around, is that over 18 years, it takes approximately $250,000 to take care of a child from kindergarten to 18. If that stat is true, we don't know how true it may be. Obviously, it varies. But doing the math, that's just under $14,000 per year, just under. I don't know what gift you're going to get, but again, let me put my forecaster tinfoil kufi on. It will not be $14,000 worth of a gift.
And I wish.
To what you are giving.
And I wish.
It will not be $14,000 of a gift to what you are giving. And it's different for me because obviously it's more of a case of I'm not taking on someone else's child. So again, I think the trope that most women would say, most people would say, well, you had them. And even the kids themselves would say, well, I didn't choose to be here. You brought me in here. And that would be a valid argument in my case. But in yours, this is $14,000 per year. You're taking on it. You don't have to. So now I'm going to go back to your solution. Why in the world should another man have to give you a gift? Dude, you should be treated like a king tomorrow.
Unfortunately, women don't look at it like that. I've actually been told that, hey, that was your decision. You made that choice. I've been hit with that. So, it's just one of them things. Like I said, you just got to take them on the chin, because us men, we think a little bit. We're not thinking with emotion. We're thinking rationally, and rationally, yes, we should be getting, I should be getting everything I want, you know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, I'm not, and that's fine. They tend to think a little bit emotionally, so they feel like, that's a decision I made. I'm a man. I didn't have to do it, But if I were to decide, I don't want to do it anymore, then I'm wrong. So, I just take it on the chin. It is what it is. I don't really look for any recognition from them. All the recognition I want is from the kids. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a gift. Just when they grow up, recognize me. When they talk about me, say that Dad was there, that Kory was there, that he stepped up. And I want my daughters to look at a man and be like, I want him to be like Kory. I want him to be like my dad, somebody who stepped up, somebody who changed lives. I want Jaden to look at me and say, my sisters aren't, Isabel isn't my blood sister, but she is my sister, because my dad took care of her just like he took care of Madison and Mackenzie the same way. And then when he's a father, if he decides he wants to do that, more power to him. I'll support him in anything he decides to do, as far as, being in his kids' lives, and if he wants to take on a role of being in someone else's life.
You use this term stepped up, and I thought about this the other day watching, as I always say, my daughter's goofy relationship shows. I was like Married at First Sight, 90 Day Fiance, whatever. I will admit, I like them because to me, it's a lot of relationship game that we see. And one of the things I noticed, and even some of the counselors, et cetera, that are on that show, they'll use the term stepped up. And I have to say, and I think it kind of fits in what you were saying about kind of taking something back. I think either we as men should stop using the term step up, or we need to start using it with women as well. Because in what ways do we ever use the phrase a woman stepped up? Is there anything that we talk about where we say that woman stepped up? If the woman stepped up,
If there was if there was a situation where a woman left a relationship and it was just a father and a daughter, and the woman came in and was a mother figure, role model, whatever you want to call it, then I would definitely say it was a woman stepping up.
I think we would, but culturally, as part of being the cultural
right.
vernacular, I don't think I never hear that phrase being used.
Right.
I've never heard it be used in a relationship. I've never heard it be used on TV. I think you're right. I think we can start using it that way.
You should.
But yeah, it becomes something, just like I always tell my sons. Have y'all ever heard of a phrase, a woman of her word?
No, that's wow. You heard a man of his word. Yep.
There you go.
I'm a man of my word. I stand on what I say. Yeah.
And of course, I'm not saying that to say that women can't be committed to their word. But the reason why I think we have that phrase is because, as you just said, we expect that if a man says he's going to do something, it immediately is said, you are supposed to be a man of your word. With when a woman says something, it is mutually agreed culturally throughout probably all of millennia that she has the right to change her mind. And it's not that the assumption is she's not being malicious. I mean, look, the single game. The single game. It might have been a while, but the single game. Here it is, Saturday night. You hollering at this babe. It's like, hey, I'm going to pick you up at 7:00. 7:00, we going out. It's like, oh, okay, cool. 7:00, we going out. And then what happens if you call her, or better yet, what if you just don't show up? And she got all ready.
Woo-wee.
I thought you were a man of your word.
Right.
Right. Especially if you told her you're going to take her somewhere she really, really wanted to go. I thought you were a man of your word. Better yet, what if you said you're going to buy her something and you didn't?
I thought you were a man of your word. Stuff. Ooh, man.
But it wouldn't be, there's not a guy that's listening to me right now that has not had an incident happen where it's Saturday night, it's 7:00. And all of a sudden, it's like 6:55. She's like, yeah, I'm not going. What? I was on my way to your house. I'm en route now. Yeah, I just not going. I just don't feel well. Back in the old Gen X and baby boomer days, it was I gotta wash my hair tonight. It was always the old wash your hair.
Yeah, but you just gotta bite it.
You just gotta bite it. And you say, why? Because hey, what do? You end up turning around that car, unless you're a real player for real, and you be like, about to call somebody else then, I guess.
Hey, no.
But it's still acceptable. It's not viewed as she's not a woman of her word. Now, of course, I tell all of y'all, my sons, you should view that as, is she a woman of her word? But in general, we still look at it as no, she emotionally, and women will say that as well. Well, emotionally, she just doesn't want to go now. What's the big deal? And so I think when we use that term step up, it's still kind of playing. I think it plays on chivalry. And chivalry is something that came from, 400 or 500 years ago. And chivalry is nowhere near what we have been led to think that it is today. It was a code of the same way we get the code, you shouldn't hit a man behind his back. When he turns his back to you, you shouldn't hit him. We say, hey, make him, at least don't sucker punch me. That's from the chivalrous era. Don't kick a man in his nuts. That's hitting below the belt. All of these things were codes. And while many of the codes in chivalry, especially when it came to women relating to men, those things have been tossed. They don't, you go tell one of your ladies now that, you're supposed to cook for me, 3 squares a day, 7 days a week.
Man. No, they're gonna look you crazy. Yes.
Exactly. But yet the chivalrous thing is, of course, you're still supposed to get up and go to work.
Yeah.
7 days a week to provide for that family. Even if there are kids that may not be biologically yours, you're still expected. And other people will say, you're not the dad. Well, you're not the stepdad. You're just the dad that stepped up. What?
I'm dad. I gave him the choice. You can call me dad. You can call me Kory. Isabel decided she wants to still call me Kory, which is fine. Genevieve's been calling me dad since I can remember maybe 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I think eventually, maybe, I mean, Izzy is getting to the point now where she'll probably always call me Kory, and that's fine. Um, it's all good. I'm not really worried about it.
Okay, so let me take this because I think you're giving a good segue into my theory.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my theory. Tell me if I'm wrong, just my theory. And let me pause for a cause and say, if any of you men listening to this, if you have a story you want to share, please put it down in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this theory that I'm about to throw out here, if you think it's any validity to it. And if you have something to say about being the dad, the stepdad versus the dad that steps up, some experiences you like to share, put them down in the comments because we definitely would like to know. But here's my theory. This is my hypothesis. And I think in terms of what you said and the differences in your life, I wonder if this could be playing a role. The one daughter, for example, are you living with that mother?
Yes.
So one daughter, you're living with the mother. Are you living with? So you're not living with both moms, are you?
No.
Oh man, that show is about to get real interesting. If you
Man, that would be a great show. Woo-wee. That'd be a good show.
So if we look at it in terms of the daughter that you said wants to come be with you on Father's Day, are you living with that mother or not living with that mother?
Yes, I
You're
am.
living with that mother. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my hypothesis again. I don't know what it means. I'm just strictly observation for what I've seen over the years. The way the child views the father on Father's Day, and really in most of life, especially up until who knows when, well into adulthood, possibly, the child views the dad not through their own eyes, but through the eyes, or shall we say, the lenses that they were given by the mother. So if they have a mom that has reverence for the father, then I would say that the child will have a reverence for the father or for what fatherhood means and for the sacrifices that that father brings into the home. If that mom acts as though, well, he did what he's supposed to do. That's what men do. It's no big deal. So what? You know, it's Father's Day, big deal. Give him a tie. And if the child grows up seeing that, or if the child still sees dad as a utility, put it that way, as a utility,
Mm-hmm.
if he's just one level above the dog or the cat, and in most cases, you know, again, it's that love flowing downhill. If the child doesn't see the mom in a loving way toward the father, then why would the child have a lot of love toward the dad on Father's Day or any other 364 days? And
That is.
so
Mm-hmm.
in your case, I just wonder, you're right. Isabel may say, yeah, I want to be back home on Father's Day because, as you said, she lives with you, and maybe her mom has a certain type of interaction with you that Izzy sees this day as being special for you. Whereas Genevieve, if you're not living with her mom, then it may be easier for her to withdraw on Father's Day because she doesn't see that her mom give you any reverence. And I'm going to assume, I don't know, I ain't trying to cause drama. I'm just going to assume that she's not over there talking about what a fantastic, great father you are, and that, you know, you came into this daughter's life and, you know, you did X, Y, and Z. That conversation may not be happening.
Okay.
And so she might not view that as, oh, yeah, I really need to honor him on this day. What do you think about that? Think I'm off? I mean, again, this is the Black Prospector hypothesis. Y'all heard it here first. Y'all heard it here first. My theory.
I can definitely agree with that. We all kind of view things through the lenses of women or mothers because as we're culturally, and I mean really as a society, that's how we're supposed to view everything. Because mom is the end all be all at the end of the day, if we all think about it. The way, you know, Mother's Day is mom. It's always been about mom. So the way mom treats dad is kind of how the kids treat dad. And you're right, because when I was living in the home with Genevieve, Father's Day was important. I was getting gifts. I was getting things made for me. Things were a lot different. And now that I don't live with her and she's a lot older and she is with her mother more, the recognition for me kind of went away, and now it's more for her mom. So yes, I do. I can definitely agree with that. Isabel does do a little bit more now because she's with me more. And that's okay. I really feel like it also has to do with age. Genevieve's into things, and she's wanting to be out and do a lot of stuff, and she's wanting to explore and talk, and she's in her own little world. Where Isabel, she's more of a homebody, and she's at home. She likes to hang out with family and be a part of, with the twins and Jaden. So I do think it's just it's an individual thing as well.
I think it's rough because then what about when they get older?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I'm going to speak to those older dads. And again, older dads, let me know down in the comments below what you think. I think the challenge gets when they are older, and we'll say they're no longer under the influence of the mother. I think that's when the dads, because you said this earlier, so now I want to come back to it. Again, Dr. Johnson had a spectacular video that said, what is going to happen when men stop living? And let me paraphrase the title. What's going to happen when men stop living for good things to be said about them at their eulogy?
Mm-hmm.
When we stop caring who says what about us when we die, and we just said, you know what, it is what it is. I'm going to be living more for myself. And understand that when we say living for myself doesn't mean that you live selfishly. What that means is you no longer do things to please everyone else. You also do things to please you. It goes back to that airplane thing again, that, in order to save everyone else, you need to first put your own mask on before you run around trying to save everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we stop doing things that may even be detrimental to us just to save people who we may not even be accountable for, how does that change us? What does that cause us to do differently? And so would we necessarily even move into a stepfather role? That, I think that's something that has to be discussed. I'll say one in my age group that I'm talking to men about now. Would you save up as much life insurance as you have to give to the kids that may not even recognize you on Father's Day? That will still may not even come over on Father's Day. And I think probably like most men, from what I've heard anecdotally from the older guys I've talked to, nobody really cared. Nobody, I have yet to have a guy saying, yeah, I'm big into the gifts. I know some moms that are big into some gifts, but I don't think I've heard a guy say, yep, I'm looking for a big gift. No. It seems like the older dads I talk to, they just interested in time.
Mm-hmm.
Kids coming to see me. We know Mother's Day is a well-traveled holiday. Again, going out to church, going to dinner, whatever. Men are they just want some time, and they oftentimes don't get it. So why stay around?
Why not? I mean, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it for the recognition of what people say about me at my eulogy. I'm doing it more because kids need fathers. And when I see two vulnerable young ladies who just want love, why not? I feel like more dads should do it. A lot of men say, I don't want to be in a relationship with a female because she has a child and she's got baby daddy drama. I can understand that. But a lot of men need to realize that these kids do need us. We need to stop being scared to take on that role, not necessarily step up, but just be a role model. You don't necessarily have to be somebody's daddy, but you can be a role model. You can be somebody that changes a life. And that's really that's my goal and what I want to teach people. People always ask me, why did you stay? Why do you deal with this? Why do you deal with, arguing with her mama and all that? And, you don't have to be in her life. You don't have to have her name tattooed on you. Why did you do that? I can't really, there's not really words that can really explain why. It's more of just something in my heart, something that just told me this is what I need to do in my life. And ever since then, I've just really been devoted to being a good father, showing these kids the right way. I don't make a ton of money. I don't, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but one thing I am is I'm very wise, and I'm very about respect. And these, I'm teaching these kids about respect, and about, how to walk in this world. They can go to school and they can learn about, all the stuff they need to learn about as far as education. But school is not going to teach them how to move in this world. School is not going to teach them how to be respectful in this world, especially, Jaden. School isn't going to teach him how to be a Black man. So it's my job. Isabel, being a mixed child, school isn't going to teach her how to be that way. Her daddy obviously left. Her mama's white. She's not going to be able to teach her. So why I can change her life right now by teaching Isabel how to move to be a little Black girl. I may not know how to be a girl, but I know how it is to be biracial. And, her mama doesn't know how it is. Her mama doesn't know how it is to be called the N-word when you're biracial, and be called and pulled by, Black kids over here and white kids over here, and you're just trying to be cool with everybody, and they got, a feud. I can change her life by teaching her something. So that's why I stay around.
So I'm going to give a shout out to Jeff again, because there's a concept that Jeff used to always talk about that is something goes back to, I think, on why we have that phrase again, a man of his word, a man who has a personal standard. It sounds like, and I'm going to say that's how it is for me as a father as well. You do what you do because you have a personal standard, regardless really of how anybody feels about it. And whatever the recognition is, you have a personal standard that you set for yourself, that you're saying, look, this is how I want things to be. If you are involved in my life, this is really how it's going to go. Because I'm going to imagine, if that's your personal standard, there was no way you could have had a relationship with those moms and not had some kind of relationship and an influential role with those children. Is that fair to say?
Very fair.
I mean, I think what movie, and we always go back to a movie. What movie could we go to? I'm trying to think of a movie. Can you think of one where like some dude came in and was like, that kid ain't mine. I ain't got nothing to do with that kid. And just Baby Boy. Was it Snoop? Was it Snoop when he came in?
Yeah, that is that bingo. As soon as you said it.
If you can find that clip,
when Snoop was when they were in the apartment, and Jody's little son was sitting there, and he had his little fork with all the pillows, and he's watching cartoons, and Snoop's laying on the couch and gets up and kicks all the pillows. I'm gonna call your daddy. I'm gonna call my daddy. He said, call him. Yeah, I remember. Yep, that's a perfect analogy.
But we saw that in Baby Boy. I remember that scene now. And I think even back then in the 90s, it was like, wow, oh man, he wrong. But now that we older watching that scene, is he wrong? Or was that a choice he was making?
I mean, hey, that ain't his kid. He beef with his daddy. I mean, hey, it happens more often than you think.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And is it fair to say that when a man has a relationship with a child that's not his biologically, that he could lose access to that child like that? Because surely a child that's biologically ours, we can choose to go to court, fight for visitation, et cetera, et cetera. But what governmental resources or any cultural resource or any other resources you're going to have if that child that you've been interacting with, taking on this role model, taking on maybe a stepdad, et cetera, what recourse do you have if that mom is just like, all right, he or she is no longer coming over? Matter of fact, I got a new man now. And, or dad came back in, and
it's a tough pill to swallow. That would be something I've thought about that. It's crossed my mind plenty of times. I've had to deal with the fact of, saying she can't come over and me not being able to do much about it. I've had to just keep it real with, my kids and be like, especially Genevieve. Biologically, I'm not your dad, so I can't make certain decisions. You have to understand that. Unfortunately, it's just a tough pill to swallow, and you just gotta. At least for me, I just understand that eventually one day Genevieve will know that if that happened, if her mother were to be like, you can't go over there anymore, hypothetically speaking, and you're not allowed to see him, or there's another man stepped in. I would hope that Genevieve, over the past 9 years, 10 years that I've been in her life, can look back and say, no, that's my dad. He's the one that's been taking care of me. He's the one that's been in my life. Hopefully, she wouldn't get brainwashed or poisoned by her mother and say, nope, this is your daddy now. Hopefully, not saying that this is what's happening, but you would obviously hope that wouldn't happen. But that's happened before. You see it a lot where men can be kicked out of a child's life and a new man can be brought in. And it's a sick reality that these women put us through. And it's up to us men to just stand strong and do the best that you can and kind of control what you can, because in that type of situation, you don't really have any control.
And that's kind of what I was thinking about. You don't have any control in there. Mm-hmm. Even if we took some material possessions, what guy wants to be involved with anything that he has no control over? You wouldn't give me your car and say, here, take it, do whatever you want to do with it. I'm gonna still pay the no-do every month. But I don't have any control over what you do. Take it. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't do that. How much more would you not do that with a child? And so you put all this time, effort, energy, and then now you have no control if he or she is taken away from you. And if he or she is taken away from you, if the only response is, well, you shouldn't have taken on that responsibility, you made that choice, then why should other men make that choice in? Because I guess there's that old saying, why become attached to anything that you can't walk away from in 5 minutes? And that saying exists because it includes people as well. That's a tough one. And I think we need to be in a space now, since we always talk about giving people safe space. We need to be in a space now where we aren't going to chastise men who say, I'm not taking on that deal. I don't want to take that risk. Just as you have men now that don't want to take the risk even of getting married, I think it's fair to say for guys, I don't want to take that risk into having something with a child that's not guaranteed. I'm good with that future.
Dealing with kids, you're going to deal with that regardless. I feel like even if the child is yours, if you're not married to that woman and you just have a child with her, you're taking that risk regardless, because she can take your kid from you anyways. We've seen it. Guys, get their kids taken from them and they're a part of their life. They got to pay $500 in child support. And, if they don't pay the child support, then they got to go to jail. So, we see that. That's the risk that you take when you have kids with, women out of wedlock.
Okay, so, but at least if there's a child that, if the child is biologically yours and the mom takes the child, you at least still have the course. Now, you probably know more about this than I do. What about in a quote unquote stepchild situation? Because I assume you can fight for your rights to see your own child. Could you fight would the court be just as, it's bad enough for men as it is, would they be just as pressing to make sure you have rights to see your stepchild if that happened?
Probably not, unfortunately. And it's sick that we use the court of law and kind of things that were just written down as how we live, instead of just really living. If I were to go to court and say, if her mother were to say, you can't see her anymore, I should be able to go to court, prove to the court, I have been taking care of this child for this many years. I haven't received a child support payment. I haven't been given anything. I have done this on my free will. I should be able to go to court. If I'm able to prove that in the court of law, it would build a case. I feel like I should be able to do something about that. But unfortunately, we can't do that. And it's a sick and harsh reality that, us as fathers and dads, or us as dads and men, that we just really have to that's the risk you take, and you're honestly putting your heart on the line, and you're putting your sanity as a man on the line, because does it in the back of my mind, do I think, man, she could be taken from me at any time? Yes. But like I said, I'm not in this to do anything but just teach these kids how to be grown women, grown men, be respectful people, and show them the way for when they have kids. They can know what to do. They can know how to treat them. And I'm not perfect, and I'm not, claiming to be perfect, but I have a duty to these kids. So that's just what I'm going to do. That's why I said, hopefully when they get older, they can look back and say, he did a great job, or he stepped in and filled the shoes that needed to be filled. This was the piece of the puzzle that needed to be filled in my life. So that's what I'm hoping for. And, hopefully I never have to deal with Genevieve getting taken from me. let's keep my fingers crossed that I never have to enter that realm.
Yeah. Now I'm going to say what I said to you. And again, guys, if you have any kind of words of wisdom that you would like to add on here and your own experience, put them down in the comment section below, or email me at blackprospector@gmail.com. I need to give out the email a lot more than I do, but blackprospector@gmail.com. But this sounds very fatalistic to say, but as I said to you the other day, at my age now, being in my 5th century on this planet, well, I could say now well into my 5th century on this planet, there's a high possibility that after all of your sacrifices, she or he could be your son as well. It's not going to make them a hill of beans of a difference. Mm-hmm. It's going to be, well, you did what you did. I'm glad you did what you did. If those words ever get said, odds are, now that I've lived long enough to bury a best friend at 45, now that I've lived long enough to watch men go through divorce, now that I live long enough to look at a whole lot of these stories, I hate to say it, but it seems in the majority of the cases, only a few exceptions, the only time that those kind words, the words that I think you're seeing, you seek, the words that I'm sure I seek and most men seek, the only time they get said is at his funeral. Mm-hmm. While the man is here, quite honestly, dad isn't liked too much. Number one, dad isn't liked too much because we as dads take on the role of disciplinarian. So because we aren't the nurturer, because we're always the ones that put the smack down, and we're the ones that say, no, you shouldn't be doing this. And I like what one guy said earlier. As a father, our role is between the government and between the child, because it's like, I get on you because I don't want handcuffs put on you. I get on you because it's better for me to come down on you than the street to come down on you. Yep. And I know I'm going to be more merciful. If I could take the analogy that we see in the Bible, where here it was like God gave David a choice. Would you want me to punish you, or would you want man to punish you? And David was like, God, I'd rather you punish me, because at least I know there's going to be some mercy in your punishment. I'm not going to get that mercy from man. And yet that's exactly what I think we're often faced with, is that we can have mercy on our children. But the problem is, because they never get that punishment outside in the government or even in the streets, because we protect them, it's taken for granted. And so it's like all they see is us, but they don't see what's on the other side of us. They don't see. So we take the bullets literally, or I'll say figure, sometimes literally, because I can play that clip from Boys in the Hood. Sometimes we'll even take the bullets literally so they don't catch them. But because we take them figuratively, they don't know what they've been saved from. So when those Father's Days come up years later, it never hits them like, wow, I thank my dad because he kept me out. He kept the street from getting me. Wow, I thank my dad because he kept the police from, beating me down, or because he kept me off the streets from being a knucklehead and maybe deserving I was gonna fuss. My dad taught me don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. But if I would have been like my friends, I would have been doing that and I might have gotten killed. Or I might have been breaking into somebody's house, or I might have been carjacking somebody. Who knows? But it was because my dad got on me. I'm not there. And sadly, oftentimes it's only when they come up to the mic at the funeral and they get there and dad is sitting in that casket, laying in that casket. And then that's when they look in and that's when they cry. My dad, da, da, da. And everybody in there is crying. But you know what? Dad can't hear a word you're saying, at least in my belief system. Dad ain't, it's nothing. One thing, whether it's my belief system, what he can hear or what he can't hear. One thing we know, I don't care what your religious belief is, nobody's talked about dad came up out that casket and was like, finally, the recognition.
All right.
If y'all got stories like that, put them down in the comments below. I want to see it with video. That'll make this video even better. So unless we got dad coming up like that, talking, why can't we give him the recognition on that day?
So basically, I know the recognition part, I know I'm not going to get it the way I want it. I kind of, like you said, I'm doing it for my personal self. I'm doing it for me. I know that when I get older and my kids are old enough, Lord willing, I'm able to have grandkids. I want them to tell my grandkids what type of father I was. You know, I want them to have the stories of, you know, the type of person I was, the type of things that I did for them. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be recognition, but my grandkids can hear that, you know, I was the one that stepped in and I was the one that took on that role. Then my grandkids are going to hear that. My grandkids are going to know their grandfather did something special. So that for me is gratifying. Everything that I'm doing, it doesn't necessarily, the gratification for me and the reward that I get is seeing how happy they are, seeing the joy that they get out of having a father. It made me feel good today. I was walking down the street with the twins and out of nowhere I heard, "Hey, Izzy's dad." And it clicked in my brain, but then didn't. I was like, wow, that's me. So I looked back and I was like, "Hey," and they were like, "Tell Izzy we said hi." And I was like, "Oh, I will." And it made me feel good because I was recognized as Izzy's dad, because I'm not always recognized like that. So it made me feel good. So it's not always just the recognition that I'm going to get from them or the recognition that I'm getting from these women. It's the recognition that I'm giving myself, knowing that I'm doing a good job, knowing that I'm doing a good deed. I'm not out here selling drugs. I'm not out here screwing a bunch of women. I'm not out here doing God knows what else I could be doing. I'm here taking care of kids. I'm here being a role model. I'm here doing what I need to do for me and for them.
I like that. I like that because I think you're taking us to, as we get ready to move toward the final moments of the solutions. I really like you saying that because I think at the end of the day, again, it's that standard and the role model that you're setting for not only your kids, but even the people that see you. You end up impacting their lives. And that's why I'm going to take it further in my age category. Some of my enjoyable fatherhood moments were not just involving the kids. For example, one of my fatherhood moments with you was the fact that when you got your first car, that raggedy red neon,
Weird.
you thought enough to ask me to go bouncing with you and your friends. So we all squeezing in that raggedy red neon of yours. And here it is. Man, you don't know how elated I was. And you know, again, Father's Day is not about gifts, it's about time. And I think we as men, and perhaps it's the same way how we are really with any relationship. It's not about the gifts. Nobody is hanging with their boys like, "Man, how you didn't buy me a gift for my birthday?" You know, nobody is saying that to one of their boys. They look what makes us, what bonds us, shared experiences, and what that automatically means time spent together. Today, you know, your younger brother, we were out chilling in Sedona, and it was probably about 10 guys in the rain. Yeah, it's rain here. It rains here in Arizona, y'all. Rain most of our day. it was raining and these guys were out there playing football, something you know very well. And they just out there playing the pick 'em up game of football, laughing. And I told him, I said, isn't it amazing? Again, when you're my age, you realize it more than maybe at your age. Look how the fun those guys are having, and not one woman is around. They just enjoying kicking it, being together, laughing, nobody fighting, no, nobody's arguing and screaming. They just all having a good time.
Mhm.
And it's that time that they are spending together. And so that time that I spent with you, and then I don't even take it for granted the time that I've spent with your friends. That, like you said, somebody recognize you, hey, as Izzy's dad. The times that your friends see me as your father. It's like, oh man, and I realize my impact is larger than just an impact on you. And then the same way with your brothers, I realize, wow, they friends are now, I'm interacting with them. And just, I think probably the nature of just how we both are, we're going to try to drop some knowledge and some wisdom no matter who we talking to. And so I'm going to throw that out there as a possible solution, that dad, whatever you're going through right now, and whatever lack of recognition, because some of y'all done pissed off your baby mamas. You done pissed off your baby mamas, or even if you married to the woman, she's still your baby mama. She might be mad at you tomorrow. But my father used to say, I don't need to buy anything for your mama. That's your mama. You buy her something for Mama's Day, Mother's Day. To a certain degree, he's right.
That's very true.
To a certain degree, he's right, especially when we get older. Meaning that, going back to what you said, it's not necessarily about how the mother recognizes you. It's the fact that, kids, how are you going to recognize your dad? Or how are you going to recognize that man who dropped some game, some knowledge, some life-changing words on you, and he wasn't even your father? Now, he might have been your stepdad. He might have just been a neighbor. It may have been your uncle. It might have even been a friend. But especially if it's an older guy. Again, this is why we have every Black man has a story. Because Black men in particular, but all men, but I'm mostly focused on Black men. Men want to share their stories with other men and want to have an influence on other men and on their lives. Give that man a happy Father's Day. Give that man some honor. Just yesterday, it was a dude I didn't even know. Saw him walking up. We walking from the lake. We were walking away from the lake up the hill. He was coming down chasing one of his kids, and there was like 3 other kids behind him. So, immediately I saw, 4. So that resonated with me. His wife was coming up behind him. And I saw him, and instead of just speaking to him, because I didn't have to. I mean, we were distanced enough to where I could have just acted like I didn't see him and not even speak. But, I said hello to him, and I told him, hey, man, happy Father's Day. And he kind of was shocked. He was like, all right, you too. Because every time I see a man, especially with his kids, especially around this time of year, look, if we can tell a man and say, hey, thank you for your service, I think we should also be telling a dad, thank you for your service. Thank you. Have a happy Father's Day, because I know you may not be getting the recognition at home. What say you?
That's why I look at people like, the late Kobe as somebody I look up to. As he wasn't my dad. I didn't know Kobe, but him as a father. I mean, if you watch him with his daughters, he's a girl dad, like he said. How he raised Gianna and how she was like a mold of him, and how he was raising his other daughters. That's a father figure. You wanna be a father figure, just not for your kids, but for everybody else, for other people, like you said, watching, who either aren't fathers or new fathers or are lost fathers. But when other people see you doing a good job, like my friends, they see me doing a good job and they say, man, you're a great dad. I just actually, matter of fact, I just gave a compliment to one of my boys the other day. I haven't known him. I've known Alex. I won't put his last name on there, but I've known Alex a minute. Not too long. He's the godfather of the twins. He's my child's mother's friend's boyfriend. It's a long story, but he has twin boys, and he's always doing stuff with them. He's always, out with them, cleaning his truck, taking them out, doing a bunch of stuff, and he's just enjoying it. It's, you see the joy and the love in their eyes, and when they're doing stuff. And I just happen to, just tell him, I'm proud of you.
Mm,
I'm proud
mm.
of the man that you are to your sons. I'm proud of the dad that you are. Not a lot of dads out here are like that. And he was surprised. He was shocked, but he said thank you. And he said, he grew up without a dad or something of that nature. And so it felt good for him to hear that from another dad. And that's what we have to do. We have to uplift each other. So, it's not always just about being good dads and good people to our kids, but to other people, because they're watching us. And it's important to us as men. We keep, like I said, we are all we have at the end of the day. So we have to keep uplifting each other. So
I like the fact that you brought Kobe in there and stuff, because it gave me an opportunity to look up some stuff. That's what I was doing real quick. Y'all know I have to do it. I have to do it. I got to go to my favorite dads. My favorite dads.
that's you for sure. That is
My favorite
definitely you.
dads. Let me tell two quick stories on my end about fictitious dads. Like you said, you didn't know Kobe, but at least Kobe was a real father. Now, obviously, the two dads I'm going to throw out, these were TV or movie fathers, but the roles that they played, if you don't believe that images are important, understand. I mean, I won't even go down that road of why Hollywood spends so much time making sure we see certain representations, especially for Black men. So I don't take it lightly, the representatives, or I'll say the representation that Lawrence Fishburne spent as Furious Styles, that John Amos spent as James Evans, the representation of, and again, I got one of those videos that I don't know where I'm gonna point to it. I may put a link below. A video that I did where I was analyzing some of the things that James Evans did on Good Times, and how he really fought to be a Black father on that show when Norman Lear did not want him. Originally, they wanted Florida Evans to be a single mom. Tell me that wasn't for a reason. But anyway, let me quickly say, and what did they do? They killed James off the show as soon as they could and made her the single mom that they wanted in the very beginning. But real quick, let me touch on why these two. Let me start here with James Evans, because James Evans impacted me as a father before I was ever even a dad. Now I can't see my screen because doggone Zoom thing came down. So I guess I'll start with Furious instead. Furious hit me. Boys in the Hood, my all-time favorite movie. But Furious hit me because he was a young father. And I saw myself because I was a young father with you. And certain things that happened with Furious growing up happened with my dad. So it was, when I saw that movie in 92, it was a strange convergence. Because on one end, I'm seeing Furious in my father. That classic scene to where the guy is in the house about to steal from them. He had broken in. Furious pulled out his gun, shot at him. The police came, had an attitude at his father, like, why you bothering us? And Furious standing up to the police. That was my dad all the way. And I remember being that kid like Trey, watching it like, I can't believe the police are treating my father like this, and he didn't do anything wrong. And then I'm watching Furious cut Trey's hair. And at that same time, Furious cutting Trey's hair, I'm trying to cut your hair.
Yep.
And it's like, and I struggle with that
parallel.
because we didn't have the same kind of hair texture. And I still wasn't gonna pay for a haircut. What? You out your mind?
Right.
And I wasn't even bald. I wasn't paying for my own haircuts. I was cutting my own hair. And the conversations that they were having there, and Furious dropping knowledge all the time on his sons, explaining them about gentrification, explaining them about the street, explaining to him about women, and of course, Furious beefing with Trey's mother and visitation. And that resonated with me because of what I was going through with you. And so Furious Styles plays, sometimes y'all may even see I might have Furious Styles on the names of some of my older videos, especially. Furious Styles was the archetype of teaching me how to be a father, even especially when his son was about to get caught up in the street. And he said, give me the gun, Trey. Give me the gun. Because he realized there's only so much influence I have on my kid. My desire is just to keep him alive. And then we get to James Evans. James Evans is the first Black father, first father in general that I identify with on television. Again, James Evans, when I was younger, that was my dad in a lot of ways. From a protector, from a provider, three kids in our family, mom not working, my mother didn't work. And James and his hot temper was just like my father and his hot temper. Matter of fact, even the receding hairline is about the same. That's why I'm bald now. So but James, the type of man James was, that was my dad. And then as I got older, I realized that's me as well. I'm in so many ways, I'm kind of that James Evans type of dude by choice and just by default in terms of my personality. Because James being willing not to go out and do certain things because he wanted to be at home with his family, he wanted to be at home with his kids. The importance of education with his kids, that impacted me of wanting to homeschool my children. I always tell this story. I remember even with me and your mom, one of the arguments we got into once was, it was about you doing homework in the summertime. Woo, boy. And, I remember it was like I was being so cruel, but it was funny because I look back at it. I'm sure a lot of you probably view him was like, what kind of dude make his kids doing homework? But for me, it didn't make sense that kids do not do homework in the summer. I don't get summers off on my job. So why do we stop learning for 3 months out of the year? So even before I became a homeschooling dad, that didn't make sense to me. So, if we would have fast forwarded maybe 10 more years, you would have been homeschooled, or man, that would have been a real big argument because your mom would have been like, no, he going to school. And I'd be like, no, I think he should be homeschooled. And that really would have been something. But it was just part of me, that importance of education. I did not see a reason why you should not be learning during the summer. You should be learning. You should be working on some book reports. You should be doing some work. You should be getting sharp for that next grade. And that was even when I didn't have any quote unquote skin in the game in terms of for school. I was out. Actually, I was trying to go back to school myself then for college. But that again comes from James Evans, seeing I know the importance of an education, what it's going to be for my son, that he needs to go ahead and get that. So I'm going to say happy Father's Day to Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, yeah.
AKA Style. Happy Father's Day to John Amos, AKA James Evans, because y'all made me, or one of the reasons you made me into the dad that I am today. Any fictitious characters, and you can't give it out to Kobe, sorry, that you want to say happy
I'm looking it up right now. It's Uncle Phil. It's Uncle Phil all day. Because you got to look at Uncle Phil and how he was with Will. Look at, and I think Fresh Prince, that's my favorite show. So Your Good Times is my Fresh Prince.
Okay.
Uncle Phil, look at Will. Will didn't have a father.
Mm-hmm.
Will's father walked out of his life. Will comes to live with Uncle Phil and his family. And he is kind of not forced, but has to take on that role of being a father figure to somebody else's kid. And he doesn't have to. He could easily tell him to leave. And I don't know, have you watched the new Fresh Prince yet?
I haven't watched the new one.
Well, it's interesting because it's not really a family show. It's more of a serious show. So it kind of gets into more serious topics. And this Uncle Phil could have easily kicked Will back home. Easily could have told him, I don't want you here, but he didn't. He took on that role and he said, I'm going to be the father figure in your life. And I'm not going to give the because there's a part in the show. I don't know if you're going to watch it, but there's a part in the show.
I will.
They do touch on Will's dad and how he handles the situation between his father and Uncle Phil it's very interesting. But Uncle Phil would definitely be mine. James Avery, rest in peace to Uncle Phil. Definitely would be my fictitious father.
I've seen some websites before that want to like shout out, or they rank the most influential Black TV dads, and Uncle Phil always gets mentioned. The guy from Family Matters gets mentioned, which to me I'd never understood that. But it's like
Uncle
but
Phil.
I think maybe it's my generation.
Yeah, Uncle Phil was definitely. He was. I don't know, Uncle Phil. He was he was a tough dad. You know, he was like a James Evans, where he was a tough dad, but he had that soft spot to him. And Will would always get that soft spot out of him. You know, he had that tough shell, but Will got that out of him, and especially the part that everyone cries at when Will and his dad walks out on him, and look who's there, Uncle Phil gives him the hug, and that moment, that's not between father and son. That's just between, you know, a young kid that lost his or doesn't have a dad and his uncle, but he's a father and he's doing something. He's being there for somebody that really needs him, and that's the whole dynamic of what I'm doing. I'm being there for somebody that really needs me. I don't necessarily have to be your daddy. You don't have to call me daddy, but I'm going to be that father figure in your life. So that's kind of why I would say Uncle Phil, because I can kind of relate to it.
Man, that's good. You know what? You may have persuaded me. I normally don't put Uncle Phil because I didn't watch, you know, I know every episode by Good Times pretty much by heart. I pretty much know the whole script for Boys in the Hood. I don't have that with Fresh Prince. However, I've watched it enough where you're exactly right. I think the only reason I didn't want to give Uncle Phil the benefit of the doubt is because probably of how what's his face and Hillary turned out. So it's almost they seem to be so over the top. It's like that what? But look at those.
But you got to think, without Uncle Phil,
Carlton,
where would Will have been? What type of path would Will have gone down without Uncle Phil? Uncle Phil was a big part of Will's life, because when he came in, he was one of those young punks who just, I'm from North Philly, especially in the new one. The new one, you would love the new one. The new one is great. A lot of people didn't like it because they just felt like it was just too serious, and, you know, Fresh Prince was funny.
We don't want serious stuff these days.
But this one it touches on race, it touches on fatherhood, it touches on, you know, and especially fatherhood when it comes to girls too. So it's definitely a good watch. It's on Peacock, so I think it's free.
Oh, if it's free, it's me, baby. You know how we do. All right.
I know
cool. It. I have to give it a watch. That, you know, it's interesting that it's serious and it's on Peacock. You know, it's like, I wonder how many other networks turned it down because it wasn't goofy, wasn't funny. So, you know, it ends up going to, you know, that app instead, which is going to limit views. But I'll definitely check it out. And you reminded me, again, every Black man has a story. People check out my brother's story because it reminds me of somebody. I think let's go move into this segment as we get ready to close. Give a happy Father's Day to just some men that come to mind. And when you said that, I'm going to give a special happy Father's Day to my Uncle Donald, because he took my brother in the same way as you just talked about with Fresh Prince and Uncle Phil taking him in. Mm-hmm. And my brother talks about my uncle. And here, all these years, decades later, we are probably here in Arizona. Obviously, my uncle moved here, but my brother being sent there, my brother talked about Arizona. It gave more attention to Arizona. And here to all these years, we are settled in Arizona. And the influence that my uncle had on my brother's life and the kind of even dad my brother would be has been phenomenal. So I have to give a special happy Father's Day to my uncle, because my Uncle Donald, that is definitely an example of a man that he had no attachment, wasn't his kid, but he said, I'll take that kid in. And I'll give another one, and I could actually think of a lot of men, but I'm going to say two more that come to mind immediately. One is my kid's godfather, and that would be Denver. As I've gotten older, I appreciate his friendship, because here's a guy that, you know, I viewed him as my uncle, because, you know, Black people, we don't call people by their first names. So I kind of viewed him as more my uncle, but really he was just a family friend. I mean, we were related, but it goes around through in-laws. And I would learn that many years later. But he, again, stepped and took a role. See, I almost used a stepped up word. So I got to get out of that. Yeah. He took on a role that it was just more like we hit it off, and he didn't come across as like, I'm going to be like your dad and tell you this. It's just he's always sharing wisdom and giving me advice.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really humble when he does it. It's like, you don't have to listen to me, and he'll just put it out there. So I have to give him a special happy Father's Day. And then lastly, I have to give a special happy Father's Day to Cobra John. His video, again, check out Every Black Man Has a Story. It's 4 hours worth of content, me talking to him. And I know you were like, man, that was a long one. But again, it goes to show how willing he is to share and say whatever's on his mind to help me. And in this case, that's why I had to have him do the show, because he's willing to help other men. So for those 3 guys, where I'm going to say they aren't obligated nothing for me or my family, they invested into me. And I have to say, gentlemen, happy Father's Day to you. And you have now put me on make me, I'm not going to say feel guilty. I'm going to say you and your idea, I need to take care of those guys on Father's Day. I need to take care of them just as I would try to take care of my dad. How about you? Anybody you would like to throw out that had no obligation to you?
That had no obligation to me. Fathers. I would say definitely my friend Nick, his dad. My best friend Nick, I've known since high school, and I think you've met Nick's dad a couple times. He's dropped some knowledge on me. He's one of them OGs. You know, when I'm going through stuff with women, or if I'm going through stuff with the kids, he's always got a good word to say. He's always got some way of dropping some knowledge on me, and he's always been a good dude. He's, you know, he's the father to my best friend. So, you know, I gotta give him some props there, because my boy Nick, he's a tough one, but you know, his dad, he's always been in his life, and he's always been good to me. He's always checked on the kids, as far as, you know, asking me how the family is. So I gotta say happy Father's Day to him, because he's definitely been, you know, he's not been a father figure to me, but he's definitely been a great father that I can remember growing up. That's not obligated to me, I would say. Even though this next person was kind of obligated to me, I would say Calvin. He's not my stepdad anymore, because he's not married to my mother. So when they got divorced, he could have bounced. He could have said, that ain't my kid. But he didn't do that. He still stayed the course. He still is in my life. He still checks on the kids. He still comes around. You know, he still drops knowledge on me. I can still call him up if I need advice, if I need help. So even though he did have an obligation at one point, he didn't have to continue that obligation. So for him, I do appreciate, and, you know, happy Father's Day to him as well.
Wow, can I just piggyback on that and say happy Father's Day to you as well, Calvin? Because I know that brother was in some tough situations because I was in the picture, and it probably would have been easier had I not been, but he got caught up between just issues between me and your mom. And I can only imagine what he heard when, you know, on his end at home. And it was the fact that I appreciate the role that he played, because there's a lot of trust that he had with my son, and it sounds like he handled that trust well. I can say I can't think of any incident off the top of my head at all where I ever worried about you with him, and that's a tremendous testimony. So Calvin, happy Father's Day to you, and I thank you, brother. I thank you that I could trust you with my son, and that we doing something today together. And obviously the fact that you are honoring him shows that he handled that responsibility the way a man should.
Definitely.
Exactly the way a man should. So man, I'm really glad you brought that up. Really glad you brought that up. All right, so as we get ready to wrap this up, any final words, any happy Father's Day shout outs you want to give?
Happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you, sir.
Looking at the grand scheme of things, from the time I, you know, growing up and having a hard, relationship to now doing podcasts and talking about fatherhood. It just all comes full circle. See Reggie and see Joshua and see how they are as men, to see, my sisters and how they are as women. You've done an incredible job with us as a whole. I wasn't in your house, but you made an impact on me. You make an impact on them, and you continue to do it. And then you make an impact on everybody else, and you're doing podcasts, and you're doing all this stuff. I'm trying not to get emotional, but it makes me happy because, like I said, I strive to be like you one day because you change lives, whether you believe it or not. And I'm proud to be able to say you're my dad. No matter what we done been through, no matter, all the whoopings I got, all the stuff you said about my mom, or you may have, my mom may have said about you or anything. It never really changed. My view is you are my dad. And I thank you for everything you have done for me in every form, and the way you continue to do things for me and my family. You're not here. You're hundreds of miles away, but your impact is still like you're here right now. Like you're in the house with us. Like you're a part of the family, and we see you every day. That impact is made by your post, by your words of wisdom, by our 15-minute conversations or our 2-hour conversations. They make and they mean the world to me. So I just want to say thank you and happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And likewise, happy Father's Day to you also. Um, and I remember when going through some of those tough times and turmoils, I used to tell people, how do I know I'm gonna be alive that my son's gonna appreciate anything? And so I'm thankful just having a birthday that I am still alive, um, to hear that some things were not in vain and that I didn't do irreparable damage, because I know I made a lot of mistakes. As I always said, I was learning how to be, man, it's messed up, man. It was messed up for you because you were my training wheels. You were like the first car. And everybody knows, like, I'm sure that red neon doesn't get the treatment your Explorer get today.
Right.
Your early rides. And it's not lack of caring, it's lack of knowledge. And that lack of knowledge, you don't know what you don't know, or you think that the problems that you're going through today are going to be problems forevermore. And so I know I made a lot of mistakes. So I really appreciate what you said. And I want to say happy Father's Day to you as well. I am so proud of the father that you have become and that you are becoming, because the race isn't over. And yeah, you even are taking responsibility for kids that are not biologically yours, but it's your personal standard. It's your personal standard. And if there was any motivation, I guess I'll say for me, it was that it's a personal standard of talking to you. It gets to a point, and I tell all of y'all, and y'all as my kids, I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm talking to your kids. I'm talking to your grandkids that aren't even here.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate you telling me, because I do feel bad not being there, being thousands of miles away. And then, the whole world shut down. So then I can't even get back there. And I feel like, wow, I'm just not even around anymore. What can I do?
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be honest, man. It means more coming from you, because I know there's a certain level of you don't have to say it. There's less of an obligation there. My other four here might feel guilty, who knows? But you don't have to. And so it means a lot coming from you. It really, really does. We have to do a show about spanking. I did one myself, because when I listened to your podcast, I was like, yeah, I do need to cover this topic. But I won't go into that. We're going to save that for another show, because I do want to do one with you about that. But your words do make me want to say this to guys. If you're thinking about whether you should stay or not, when you get that phone call from that girl, and she tells you she's pregnant, regardless of what your relationship is with her, don't look at your situation as one that you're making that decision and you're assuming what it's going to be 18, 20, 25 years from now and how bad it's going to be. I hope you seeing both of us here, there's some good that can come out of that situation because it's not all doom and gloom. And many times you hear guys, that as we said, what's sad is the guys that leave are the guys that are going to get the most recognition, quite honestly, because dads leave, as they say, it leaves a heart, it leaves an open door in the soul and in the heart of that child. And so even if dad is gone and never comes back, that child still I want to know my father. I want to know my father. I want to know my father. And sometimes, especially if you're the stepdad, you're like, I am your father. I'm here. I'm the one that's in your life. And this child still may be like, nope, I want to know my real dad. And that hurts. That hurts. And so you may want to bounce and you may feel like, what is it all worth? My question for you is, what's your personal standard? Mm-hmm. Are you doing it for the recognition from some woman? You may not even get the recognition from your child, but what is your personal standard? So I appreciate your words, man. Because it gets to the point where some of those court battles and stuff, it wasn't even about recognition from you. But I'm glad I hung in there. I'm glad it's been a blessing. And as I always say, you made me a better man. You made me a better father. The other four should also be sending you Father's Day gifts, not only for you, but because, man, if I wouldn't have made some mistakes with you, they wouldn't have got
I took a lot of their whoopings. I took a lot of their whoopings, boy.
You took a lot. And it wasn't even, it's as you know now, it's a lot different when the kids are in the house with you. Mm-hmm. As you now know, it's a lot different. Mm-hmm. It's something to be able to talk to your kids and deal with your kids. They get to see the angry, mean daddy, but then they also get to see the dad that give me a hug. The dad that says, hey, come here, y'all. And let's have dinner together. Let's do something fun together. It's a lot different when you put the smackdown on and then they leave and they go to mama's house.
Yeah.
Way and then different. It's like way different. Yep. And it's like, I don't know, man, real quick, you can describe something that I don't know, but tell me, let's say if I got on you, let's say I got on you Friday, I'm mad, still steaming by Sunday, and you go back over your mom's house. When you come back over that next Friday, how did you feel relating to me? Did you still feel like, wow, he's still mad at me from last week? Or did you feel like it was forgotten away? I mean, I don't know. How did you feel?
Yeah, I was, I would get that, question in my mind of, am I still in trouble? Is dad still mad at me? So you never really know until you get there. So it's almost that anxiety factor of the whole week. It's like you go Monday, you go to school, you go to mom's on Monday, so it's okay. But then once Friday creeps around, then you get that feeling in your stomach, almost like when you're gonna get a whooping when you get home. It's like you get that feeling in your stomach of, okay, I'm going back to dad's. Is he still mad at me? Am I still in trouble? So you can it's almost like as soon as you get in the car, you know if you're in trouble or not. So when Jay would get in trouble over here, he gets in trouble, but he knows when he goes home, yo, I love you. We'll start over. And when you come over on Friday, it's a whole different week. Let's do something different. Let's put this behind us.
Yeah, because if you have that anxiety, then why would you want to come back over?
Exactly.
Thank you for that. It's sad. I'm just learning that now.
I mean, it's okay. You learn as you go.
Unfortunately, I think every parent says we don't get an instruction book when y'all pop into the world. So it's like,
no, we don't. I had to learn on the fly. I had to learn off of, how you raised me and how my mom raised me and just put it together.
And how Uncle Phil raised Will.
That too, because I watched a lot of Fresh Prince growing up. So yes, definitely.
I think the great part about it is again, it's still something about presence. It's still something about presence. And if there's one thing I'm going to say to all the dads out there, just be there. It's not about the gifts. It's not about the time. And for those of you who have an opportunity to spend time with your dad, go spend time with your dad on Father's Day. And the bottom line is, look, save those tears at the funeral if you're not willing to give those comments today. And that may piss some of you off, but I don't care. Save your tears at the funeral if you're not willing to spend time and give your comments today. Because I look at it, I've always tried to live my life as though I might not be here tomorrow. It shouldn't be nothing else that I have left to say. So that's certainly my advice that I give to y'all kids. Man, you all right over there?
Something stuck in my throat.
All right. Just I'm still up here talking. You can be like,
sorry, I didn't want to cough on the mic.
No, you good. I just had to make sure. But let me say happy Father's Day to my father. For sure, Dad. Thank you for everything. And again, what do you know? Yet another reference to every Black man has a story. Y'all, now you see the connection on why I interview all of these men. These men had a role to play. And so, yes, you can check out the interview that I did with my father as well. Happy Father's Day to my brother for what I learned from him, still learn from him. And my brother is teaching me. And actually, my brother is younger, much younger than I am. But yet he's taken over a fatherly role with me, even at this age now. Brother, thank you. Happy Father's Day to you. And yet again, somebody else has been on the show. So I'll give you, man, the last words. I can keep going on this.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to Pops and Unc and my brother Travis. He's a father. He actually somewhat did what I did. I want to say I feel like I kind of inspired my little brother to do something. Travis, he did the same type of thing I did. He took on that role of being someone else's father when he didn't have to. His oldest is 13, and he's dealt with things, with that situation, and he's handled it very well. So I want to say happy Father's Day to Travis, and happy Father's Day to all my boys that are dads out here, because we all deserve a little recognition. So happy Father's Day to all the dads.
Yes, sir. Happy Father's Day to all of you fathers out there, y'all. Enjoy your day. All right, I got two more things to get in. One, of course, again, happy Father's Day to you. What are you gonna do on Father's Day?
I don't know. I'm just gonna kind of kick back and relax. I do plan on taking Jaden and going to a Cars and Coffee.
All right.
Taking little father-son time, which is very important. Since I have 4 girls, it is definitely important to take that little bit of time and spend it with the boy. So just going to go to a car show with Jaden, just hang out. Be a Sunday. It's going to be nice outside. So I just want to be outside. That's my thing. I don't want to be cooped up in the house. I don't want to be cleaning anything. I don't want to cook nothing. I don't want to do any housework. I just want to relax, enjoy the nice day, and just kick my feet up.
Man, yeah, you definitely sound like my son. For sure. Yeah, I just got back with your brother. We just took what I call a testosterone tour. Just did a trip up to Northern Arizona, and just a quick overnighter, because I wanted to get back for Father's Day, because but actually I go in sequence. So I really is starting off the weekend taking a trip with him, getting back, doing this show with you. I consider it part of a great Father's Day weekend, and talking to you more in addition to the conversation we just had. And then in the morning, your brother is coming through, driving over. We're going to go play some disc golf, along with your younger brother, and we're all going to just kind of go out and probably go out to breakfast. Don't know if I'm going to see my daughter. I don't know if she's coming through or not, but again, and it's nothing like the time. Ain't nothing like the time. And you know how it is. I understand what you're saying with girls, because I think the relationship we have with girls, I might say that's even more, less recognition, unless like Chris Rock said, if they get on the pole, it's our fault. If they don't get on the pole, then it's like, oh, well, you just did what you were supposed to do. But
Right.
no matter what, so that is what it is. But in closing, man, again, happy Father's Day to you, man. I'm proud of the man that you are, the father that you've become, and for what you're still doing. It's been a pleasure to do a show with you, man. I've been looking forward to doing this. So I'm glad we're able to do a Father's Day show to really get it popping off. So yeah, thank you for the time. Keep doing what you're doing. And I'm going to close with this: the fact that you started a podcast and I'm doing one, and I almost feel like I'm less involved with fatherhood in a way, because now I don't have a bunch of little kids around the house any longer, and all of y'all grown doing your thing. But yet the desire is there because it's a personal standard. This issue is important to me. Fatherhood is important to me, and I'm glad to see it's important to you, because we all we got, as you said.
That's
We
right.
all we got.
That's right.
So if we want to have a better society in the future, it's going to begin and end with the dad. So thank you, man. Thank you. With that, happy Father's Day to all of y'all out there. And give a plug, man. Where can people find you?
Right now, Spotify and Anchor, A Dad Mentality. It'll be up on Apple and all that good stuff soon. I'll get it. I have 2 episodes, well, not 3 episodes, but like I said, I'll have more going soon. I'm gonna have, guests and other interviews and more content for me about my crazy fatherhood life of having twins and girls and all that good stuff.
Good, man. Good. Look forward to hearing more. As always, let's collab and do some more.
Definitely.
All right, I can truly say, y'all, if you like the material, if you like the content, if you like listening to more fatherhood, I plan on expanding it, looking at more issues involving fatherhood, because again, that's my passion. People ask me, what do I do for what? I get this question: what do you do for work, or what do you do? And the question of what do I do? Well, I have my 9-to-5 job, but what do? I teach, I homeschool kids, and I talk about fatherhood and relationships. That's what I do. And so if you like the content, please like, subscribe, share. Everybody say hit that notification bell when new videos come out. Kory's going to be putting out new stuff. So we're going to be doing more collaborations, trying to bridge these old fathers and the new fathers so we can help one another. So please share the material, put it out there. And as they say, likes don't cost a thing. Because after all, you probably ain't spending much on your father for Father's Day anyway. So why don't you just like a fatherhood video or share this one with them? So, man, thanks again. And with that, we're going to say peace to everybody, y'all. Happy Father's Day.